it's Isabel, and today we are in front of my reading trolley because I'm going to talk about the books that I want to put on my TBR for the reading rush. You probably all know what the reading rush is, but just in case you don't, the reading rush is a week-long event hosted by Ariel and Raylene. They do this every summer, and it's basically just a week where they encourage everybody to read as much as they can, and they also always come up with some fun challenges to help you pick the books that you want to read. And because the reading rush is next week, it is about time that I got around to actually creating my TBR for it. So I'll basically just go through all of the challenges and tell you what books I picked for them, and as usual I will double up on some of the challenges because I don't think that I will be able to read 7 books in a week. I think, picked 4 books. That's already a lot for 1 week for me. So yeah, we'll see how it goes, but that's the plan. So starting with challenge number 1 is read a book with a cover that matches the colour of your birthstone. And I was born in December, so apparently my birthstone is either a blue zircon or a turquoise. And I thought, you know what would be fun? Instead of picking just 1 book to complete this challenge, I want all of the books on my TBR to be either light blue or turquoise-ish, or at least parts of the cover to be that color. So that's what I'm going for. The second challenge is to read a book that starts with the word the. And for that I have picked The Witchway Tree by Elizabeth Crook. This is a western, and I believe it follows a girl that tries to avenge her father that was killed by a panther. Yes, that's what it's about. And it has some like blue and turquoise-ish vibes going on, so I think that should count. And it also counts for the 7th challenge, I believe, which is read a book that takes place in a different continent than where you live. Now, I live in Europe, this one is set in America, so that works perfectly. And with that, I have actually already covered 3 of the challenges. Moving on to the next challenge, and that is read a book that inspired a movie that you've already seen. And I think that one was the hardest because I couldn't really think of any movie that I'd seen that I hadn't read the book for. But, and maybe this is cheating a little bit, but I remember that I have seen Knives Out, which I would argue is definitely heavily inspired by Agatha Christie novels. I mean, the main detective in Knives Out very much reminds me of Poirot. So I'm going to read a Poirot novel, and the one I have picked is 5 Little Pigs, mainly because the cover has light blue turquoise on it. And so far I have loved every Agatha Christie novel that I have read, and I think it's the perfect summer read. Challenge number 4 is read the first book you touch. And I have decided to pick 3 books for this, and I will then lay them out and run around blindly, and whatever I touch first is going to be the book I read. It'll be fun, I promise. But the 3 books that I have picked as contenders for this prompt are all books that I have read before and that I really liked and that I want to reread. And the first one is Wilder Girls by Rory Power. I think I have talked about this one before. So basically this one is a story of girls in a kind of boarding school setting on an island, and something called the tox breaks out. That is a sickness that starts to alter the girls' bodies. And it's very atmospheric, very creepy, and I really enjoyed it, and I would love to reread it. The next one I have picked as a contender is The Man with the Compound Eyes by Wu Ming-Yi. This one has a kind of post-apocalyptic setting in the sense that a big tsunami wave hits Taiwan, and it is following a woman who is grieving the loss of her husband and son. And it's also following a young man from a distant island that is washed ashore in this tsunami wave, and they meet and kind of help each other. It is a rather strange book, but also very touching, and I'd love to revisit it. The last contender for this prompt is The People in the Trees by Hanya Yanagihara. Now, most of you probably know this author because she wrote A Little Life. I actually haven't read A Little Life yet, and I had picked up this book at random in a bookshop before I even knew about A Little Life, and I think it is a debut, and this one is about a scientist who kind of finds this tribe of people who seem to have eternal lives. Sorry, I was interrupted, but I think I was saying that this book is about this scientist. It looks at a lot of questions of ethics and morality concerning what happens when these tribes are found, how they treat those people. And it's also about this scientist's later life and allegations that were made against him. And again, as with the others, I would really like to reread this one as well. So let's make a little circle with them and see which one of these three I will actually pick. So as you just saw, the one that won is The Man with the Compound Eyes, and I will try and read this one next week. And the last two prompts I will also fulfill with just one book, and they are read a book completely outside of your house and read a book in a genre that you've always wanted to read more of. And I have decided to pick a poetry collection for that because I think it would be easy to get through reasonably quickly, and I think it would be nice to read them in the garden. And I do like poetry, I just always seem to forget to pick up more poetry collections, so this is a good reminder to do that more often. And the poetry collection I picked is The Octopus Museum by Brenda Shaughnessy. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And this is a library copy, and I know it doesn't look turquoise at all, but I promise you the actual cover does have bluish turquoise vibes on it. And this poetry collection, as far as I understand, is about current fears, especially concerning the destruction of the environment. And I think it imagines what would happen if octopi would rule the world instead of humans. So that sounded very intriguing to me, and as I said, it is short. I do like poetry, so I am excited to get to this one. And that's it for my TBR. As I said, I don't usually read 4 books in a week, but I've purposefully picked some shorter ones, and I do plan on really spend most of my time reading that week. So I am optimistic that I can get through all of these. If you're also participating in the reading rush, let me know. If you've made a TBR video, please tell me in the comments, because I love to see what everybody else is reading, and I'll hopefully see you in my next video. Bye!